Okay, so we are recording. Welcome everyone to the Alumni Chat. We have 6 alumni with us today. So I am going to have each of the alumni introduce themselves one by one. I'll call your name, and then we'll get into a series of questions that the alumni will answer. And then any participants who are listening to this chat, at the end, you can ask questions on the chat function of Zoom. So let's get started with introductions. So Yuki, could you introduce yourself first?
Yes, it's Yuki. Yuki Nishiura. I'm from Japan. I'm going UC Berkeley, and my major is genetics and plant bio. I will be graduating next year, 2021.
Okay, thank you, Yuki. Thanks for waving. Yvonne, would you like to introduce yourself next, Yvonne? We'll wait for her to unmute. Yvonne, are you there?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
I couldn't unmute myself just now.
It's all right. Gotcha.
Okay. Hi, I'm Yvonne. I'm from Malaysia, and I go to UCLA. I'm aerospace engineering major.
Awesome. And Yvonne, when will you be graduating from UCLA?
I'm graduating this quarter.
Ah, great. Congratulations. Good for you. Thank you, Yvonne. So why don't we do Adrian next?
Hello.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Adrian. I'm from Malaysia as well, and I'm in UCLA. I'll be graduating by next spring, hopefully. And,
okay, so next spring. Great.
And my major is electrical engineering.
Okay. Thank you so much, Adrian. All right. And let's go with Kim. Kim, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, hi all. Thank you for joining here today. And thank you, Andrew, for holding this. My name is Kim. I'm from Vietnam. I am Green River Alumni class of 2017 and also Seattle University Alumni. I just graduated in December 2019, which is the right timing, just the pandemic. Yeah.
Thank you. Good stuff.
Is international business. Yeah.
International business. Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you.
And then we'll move over to John. So I'll unmute John.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi everyone. My name is John Nguyen. I'm from Vietnam, and next year I will be a senior at the University of Minnesota, Twin City, and I'm majoring in computer science.
Okay. Thank you, John, for that introduction. And then finally, we have me. Me, I will unmute you, and you can introduce yourself.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Me. It's weird, I know. I'm from Vietnam. I'm currently studying in Seattle University. Major is computer science. I'm going to graduate next year, spring 2021.
Thank you so much, Me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. So I have a series of questions that I'm going to ask our alumni panel. And for each question, we have 2 students who are going to answer the question, then I'll pose it to the rest of the alumni. So the first question I have is for John and for Adrian. The question is, think back to when you first started at your new university. How did your initial transition go? How long did it take you before you actually felt settled at your new university? So, John, let's start with you, if you don't mind, if you can answer that question.
Yeah, sure. So, since my university is located in the Midwest of the United States, so it takes one extra flight from San Francisco or Seattle to go to Minneapolis, which is the city I'm studying here. And like during summer, I actually went back to Vietnam for my vacation before starting fall semester in Minnesota. So I had to take a very long flight from Vietnam to Minneapolis. I think it was like 3 stops in total. And there was one minor obstacle is that from San Francisco, there were only like 2 flights to Minnesota in a day. And unfortunately, for some reason, like my flight from Taiwan arrived at San Francisco like 3 hours late, which caused my flight to get canceled. And fortunately, like the airline, they were helpful enough to give me a free change of flight. And I had to stay in the airport for like 12 hours on that day before my final flight to Minneapolis. And as a result, I arrived here in Minneapolis at, I think, 5 a.m. in the morning. And my orientation was going to be at 8 a.m. on the same day. And
wow.
Yeah. And the good thing about University of Minnesota is their welcome week is also like 1 week ahead of the semester. So that gives us extra time to get prepared to all the infrastructure or like how everything works here. And actually for those who are from out of state to get used to the jet lag here. And during like that welcome week, like there were a lot of activities, both reserved for new student and also transfer student. So for transfer student like me, I actually had 3 orientations separately. One is for international student, one is for transfer student, and one is with those freshman students. So me and like other GRC student, like we came here as a group. So like we all went through a series of activities to get to know more about the university and make new friends here. And to settle in, I would say it took me almost a month until like the first midterm for me to get used to all the grading system, how classroom work here, because the classroom size is much bigger comparing to a classroom in Green River. Is on average, a class of mine has 150 students in one section, which is like a big jump from like 30 students in Green River. And it took me a while to like get used to that because the professor-student relationship is not that close anymore as is in Green River. They don't have much time to answer to you, and like most of the time you will talk to the TA, which is more than the professor. So yeah, like there was a bit like struggling at first when I got used to the university, but like now that I've been staying here for more than almost a year, everything has become like quite familiar to me right now.
So, John, it sounds like you had a really kind of robust orientation. Were you able to meet a lot of people there? So you discussed a little bit about the struggles of transitioning academically, but how about socially? How did that go for you?
So fortunately, like there are also like some other GRC students who also like transferred to the same semester as me. So like at first, I didn't find that much struggling for the housing because like there were some like GRC alumni that were kind enough to let me stay for a couple of days before I find like my new place. Because unlike GRC, like we don't have host family or like in Green River. And like the lease for all the dorm or the apartments start like at the beginning of the semester. So like during that first week of orientation, some of us actually had to rent an Airbnb for an entire week. Some, and some, if they are lucky, they can stay at one of their friends' place there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would you say you still kind of see a lot of GRC students, and they're still your friends at Minnesota?
Yeah. Actually, I'm still having like the same class at 1 or 2 GRC guy here, even though they came every 1 year for me. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. Well, John, thank you so much for sharing. So I'll move on to Adrian. So let me unmute Adrian here. And then Adrian, I'll have you answer the same question. So, like, how did your initial transition go, and how long did it take before you felt settled?
So instead of like going all the way to Minnesota, it was much easier to just go down to California, because it's just right below Washington. So in my case, what I did was I actually drove down with my dad and just came back eventually. But the problem with the UCLA orientation for transfer students is it's nearly a month before your actual classes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Even the latest orientation you can choose, you still have like a 20 days break. So during that 20 days, I was kind of bored, but I was trying to settle in. So living wise, I could kind of settle in. I got some furniture, I moved in. But then, but for the orientation time, it was kind of weird because the school was huge and I didn't know where to go. And I basically got lost all the time for the whole quarter. So get Google Maps if you need some like navigation help. And
yeah, it's kind of funny to think that you need Google Maps at a university that big, Yeah, it's amazing.
It was very confusing at first, but it just takes a while and you eventually know the shortcuts of the school.
And so you had kind of a 20-day break. So during that break, you were basically just kind of settling into your housing. And were you do anything else like UCLA? Like, did you register for classes then or anything like that? Or were you just kind of hanging out for 20 days?
Kind of hanging out, but then during the orientation day, it's kind of different. Like GRC, we have like a whole week. We even have call. That's when you can like build more social network, like meet other people. But in UCLA, transfer students only had 1 day of orientation basically.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And you're all separated into groups, so it's kind of harder to socialize. So I would like to say like make the best time we could out of GRC, because that's where you get most of the connections. And I did meet some GRC students, but I rarely ever bump into them.
Yeah, because it's just so large. I've heard that from other students at UCLA, other Green River students at UCLA. And how long do you feel like it took you to kind of settle into the academic component?
I would say at least until the midterm or even like whole quarter, because my problem was during my orientation, they told me the amount of classes I had to take and I was just overwhelmed. So one recommendation is to basically see what type of classes will get transferred to your university that you want to apply to. I kind of did not obey the rule to take 3 classes and we took 4 classes instead. So it was kind of harder to like transition in, but all in all, after a quarter should be good.
So you were actually taking 4 classes during your first quarter, which is a lot.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound a lot in terms of credit wise, because apparently most of the core classes are only 4 credits, and GRC most of the time you have 5 credits. You hear 15 credits, you're like, okay. But in a university when it's like 13 credits, it's already quite a lot.
Yes, I can imagine. Well, thank you, Adrian, for your answer. Do any other students, would any other students on the panel want to talk about your transition? I think we've got enough time for maybe one extra student. So do any of the alumni, or should we move on to the next question? We're good? Okay. So let's move on to the next question. So it's very similar to what both John and Adrian spoke of, which is really just what are the similarities and the differences between college life at Green River and college life at your new university. So Yvonne, why don't we start with you if you want to talk about the similarities and differences between UCLA and Green River.
Okay, I think I can answer this in 2 different ways. One is like social wise, and the other part is classwork. So,
great.
In the academic standpoint, I wouldn't say the load is different. It's almost the same, except you have less time to do it.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's where the stress comes in. If you have like 4 classes, you have even less time to finish all of the tasks that you're required to do.
Yeah.
But then I would say that it's different in Green River because you see the same people all the time, and you start to get and every classes you kind of know who's gonna take the same classes with you, so you have a study group already set up for you, so that's easier. But in the university classes where it's like 100 people in a class, it's really hard to do that. And I would say the people here are a bit competitive, so
Sure.
it's really, really difficult to find a study buddy here.
And just to follow up with you, Yvonne, do you feel like that's because of that competitive nature? Like they're like worried about you or something, or maybe they already have their study buddy from before? Or...
I feel like it's the environment of the school, because it's so big that you don't see the same people, and you don't feel the need to work with others, and you just kind of okay, let's just finish this individually. It's a homework and you have to do it. Everybody has to go through the same thing. I guess the other aspect is it's really strict here. They always reminds you about the code, the plagiarism code.
Okay.
So that's another way where it kind of discourage you to. I mean, it's cooperative work, but then that's a gray area over there. So a lot of people didn't want to deal with that. So that's also why we don't share a lot of our information.
Gotcha.
I guess John mentioned in such big classroom setting, you don't get a lot of interaction with the professor, and the professors are pretty busy with their research, with their other work. They know you're in their class, but they won't remember you.
Yes. Gotcha. Yeah.
But then they are nice if you go talk to them, which is different from. I mean, the professor in GRC is really nice because they actually remembers you. So every time you go see them, they know that you're in their class. They're willing to help you, and it's easier to follow up with previous problems that you have, rather than in a university setting like this, where every time you go, it's kind of like a new encounterment.
Yeah.
You have to reintroduce yourself, and if you go frequent enough, they might remember you. But it depends on them. Yeah. Social wise, I guess I touch on it a little bit, but the events here, there's a lot of events here, and there's a lot of clubs here. On my first quarter, they have activities. It's like a bazaar where every clubs came out to introduce themselves, try to get new members. It's very overwhelming. It filled up the entire field, and I think there's over 100 or 200 clubs on the same.
Wow.
Yeah. It's very, very overwhelming. You feel like you want to join everything, you want to do everything, but you don't have that time. But once, I guess, the club that I joined is a bit different from GRC. I couldn't speak for other clubs because the club that I joined here it's more on technical part. It's related to my major. It's the rocket project and the plane modeling stuff. Okay,
awesome. Super cool.
But whilst in GRC, I work as an RA and I make events and also part of the social, what's called Circle K club. So that's more on the social side, which I miss because the human interaction that I have here for my major is really little compared to what I have in GRC. And going to more technical clubs on top of your classwork is just you're working. You're not, and you don't enjoy
it's not necessarily really fun, would you say? Like it's like academically stimulating, but it's not like you're just hanging out.
Yeah. So that's that part. I think once you get used to it, you wouldn't feel a lot of difference. But first quarter, definitely, you will feel it.
Yeah. Do you feel like were you able to make some friends that you hung out with outside of the clubs? Like, did you kind of develop friendships with them, or is it really like you see them at the club activities, and then that's it?
Yeah, I guess I kind of categorize them. So like the people I met in my classroom would just be my classmates, and then people in that I meet in clubs, it's always the same people that I see. So I kind of just know that, okay, they are like the club's people. But then they're like the other, but they can be your friends. It's not like they're not your friends.
Right.
Yeah, but there's also I still have friends outside of my major or my field of work, which is really hard to do because each building is almost dedicated to one major. To have friends that's studying outside so far from you, it's really hard, and the chance of you guys meeting is really low. So it just depends on, maybe if you live in the same place, you have that connection, or if you live alone, you wouldn't have that. So it depends on the individual.
Yeah, I have heard that, like when you're at a large school, it's like your family is really like your building, which is usually, like you said, just your department, whatever academic department you're in. Mm-hmm. And having visited both UCLA and Berkeley recently, I was amazed at how big they're just huge schools, beautiful schools, but huge. Yeah. So I'm not surprised that Adrian got lost, because I got lost too in school. Like the numbers the label for the classroom is not logical. It doesn't go from 101 to 102, just like PC Hall and GRC. It's so easy to find your class. The class in UCLA, give random numbers to classrooms. Well, thank you, Yvonne. I will ask Yuki the same question. So you're also at a UC. So what do you think are the similar? Maybe you have a lot of. I saw you shaking your head a lot while Yvonne was speaking. So what do you feel like are the similarities and differences between GRC and Berkeley, UC Berkeley? I'll unmute you. So feel free to speak when you're ready.
I think it's pretty much same. I think, but like I'd say, like in my experience, like my university life is quite similar to like last year of Green River. I was like taking organic chemistry and biology, and then like every week I have 2 labs. So it's pretty much same what I'm doing right now. So, and then like I feel like it's really good to like group up like three of like group of 3 or 4 or 5, and then like go to study and then study in library, and then like we kind of get together, and then, that's what I usually do for classes. I think it's pretty much same what she talked about.
So you feel like really like GRC in your final year, you were just going from classes with the same people to studying with those people, and those people kind of became your friends because you were in this academic thing together. Is that right?
Yeah. It's pretty much same, like, because I'm actually like pre-health, so like pre-pharmacy track. So a lot of like pre-med students taking also, and like pre-nursing many medical students are still taking. And I'd say like my major is one of the smallest in Berkeley. It's like I'd say like maybe only 7 students.
Oh wow, that's very small.
Yeah, so I see like every semester I see like bunch of same people taking it. Gotcha. So it's like it's kind of easier to make friends, and it's kind of easier to group up for classes.
Yes, because it's such a small group.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you. Oh, go ahead, Yuki. What were you going to say?
The classes is very specific. So it's like the classes I took last semester is like plant microbe interaction, studying like how pathogens get into the plants and then how they got infected. It's very, very specific. So it's like you are reading a bunch of research paper like every week, and then it's tough.
Yeah. So would you say you're really, I mean, is most of your life just like the academic part? Like you have a lot of, how is the free time? Do you feel like you have more or less being at Berkeley versus Green River?
It's same. I went to gym in Green River and I still go to gym in Berkeley. So it's like 2 times in a week. I still go there. So it's same. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to open this question up to any of our other alumni if you feel like you have something different you wanted to share as far as similarities or differences. Okay, so we got some hands. Thank you for raising them. So I'm going to mute Yuki. And Kim, why don't we go to you first, and then me, I'll have you talk afterwards, okay? So I'm going to unmute Kim. So Kim, what do you have to add to this question as far as similarities and differences?
Yeah, I want to add on what Yvonne has said about competitive. It is also definitely more competitive in Seattle U, even though Seattle U is like much smaller compared to UCLA, UC Berkeley, and University of Minnesota. I would say it more like a generational thing because in university, the population is mostly 19 to 22. So people are very young and they are very driven. They are very ambitious. But the difference is so Yvonne said something about very hard to find study friends, but it actually in Seattle U to form study group, you should need to be a little bit more courageous to talk to people and then study together. It also depends on individual, but definitely not that hard. But the competitiveness is more like, people are working very hard, people are searching for internship, people are working, all that things add up to the competitiveness of the whole department. Or my department is business department. But
yes.
I'm gonna add on that.
Yeah, and I think for sure, Kim, like business departments tend to be pretty competitive, and I think it's good to let all students know that you when you transfer, you're moving into your junior and senior year, and so in a way, it's like time to get more serious, right? And that's usually when internships and job placements and all this kind of stuff starts to happen. So it does ramp up for a lot of people. But I appreciate that you shared that because, yes, SU is smaller, so it's a bit easier to make connections. But that doesn't necessarily mean, there's still competitiveness and stuff like that you can see. So let's go over to me. Me, I'll unmute you. Oh, there we go. And then, what do you have to add to that question?
So this is a big thing for me. I don't realize how much more I have to read for my classes. Even though it's computer science, it's just more about computer, right? I feel like it's kind of code. No, we have to read a lot of articles, books, even like some research paper, like a ton. Sometimes I have to read it and then make a report out of it. So I think everyone have the same feeling with me. You have to read more when you go to university, just because it's just like a really significant thing for me. I am not a good reader. I read really slow. So just want to warn you guys, if anyone of you read slow, maybe practice over the summer before you go to university to read faster. Just want to say that.
Thank you, Mi. And any alumni that are here, would you agree? Raise your hands if you feel like you're reading more than you did. Most of you are raising your hands. Yeah, much more reading intensive when you get to that junior and senior year. And also, I think university study too can be much more reading intensive. So let's move on to the third question. And actually, Kim and me will be answering this question. And I'll also let others answer it as well, because it's a very good thing to share. But the question is, what is one piece of advice that you would give to a GRC international student who is about to graduate and transfer to a new university? So Kim, I think we'll start with you and then me, and then I'll ask any other alumni if they want to answer that question. So Kim, I'll have you start and I'll unmute you.
I have so many advice, but I will focus.
Share them all. If you want to share more than one piece, go ahead.
I will focus more on the social perspective.
Okay.
I can see that showing up in Yvonne's story and John's story, everyone's story. I would advise people to be very courageous and step out of your comfort zone to make friends. If you are someone who, like me, I am very introverted. Even in Green River, I always hang around a small circle of friends, and that's it. That's my status quo. And I didn't participate much in club activities or even go to events. And that become very hard in Seattle U. And Seattle U is a much smaller school compared to UC Berkeley and University of Minnesota, but it's still a bigger environment and fewer international students, more domestic students, very different culture. So I wasn't prepared for that in Green River, because that's it. This is my friend. That's all I know. But then I was kind of shocked. And I also going through a lot of personal and family issue at that time. So I actually had to go to counseling. And the counselor actually advised me to, I know you miss your old school. I know you miss your old friend, but this is your present, you gotta go out and make friends. And it was really hard because when you're depressed, talking to people is even harder. But I really take that advice. I forced myself to talk to my classmates a lot, like, what's your name? Where you from? What's your major? Why did you choose this major? What do you do in your free time? And slowly, I make more friends. And I also forced myself to go to every single event that the business department hosts. It was really hard. Again, if you're introverted, you just don't like being at a crowded place and you just don't like to talk to strangers. And that was really hard for me initially, but I make a commitment to do that. And eventually I make a lot of new friends. I feel very belonging in Seattle U. So my advice to be, if you're already extroverted and talking to people easy to you, then it's really good, keep that up. And that will make your new transition to your new university easier. But I want to shout out to, those like me, if you're introverted, be courageous. You don't have to sacrifice who you are. You don't have to go from introvert to extrovert. You can have your private little space, but do step out of your comfort zone, do talk to people, and then you make more new friends. And it will be easier for you to settle down, whatever you planning to transfer to. And then my other piece of advice is not super related to transferring, but I also want to mention it is, enjoy your time at Green River. When I was in Green River, all I do is just study. Green River has a lot of hiking trip and snow skiing trip and having buses take you to explore Washington. And, I really wanted to join those trips, but I would be like, no, I need to study over the weekend to preparing for upcoming week assignment. And one time after another, all the way until I graduated Green River. And I still didn't have any, trip except for one in Portland. And then when I transferred to Seattle University, they don't have this kind of things. The international department does a whole trip. They only have one to Tulip and then one to the Pumpkin Festival. And then that's it. They don't take you to the museum, they don't take you to hiking, they don't take you to snow skiing. I guess it's just a school very big, so it's very hard to do that. But yeah, I after I transferred to Seattle U for a while, I was really regret. I'm like, why didn't I spend some time going to all those trips back then in Green River? Because, then my memory about Green River is mostly academic and not authentic or explorations. So, again, if you already someone that, studying and also going on trip, then that's really good, keep up that balance. But if you are in similar mindset like I used to have, I very encourage you to, work hard, but also have work-life balance. And that will make your overall experience in Green River more memorable and more special. Yeah.
Thank you, Kim. That was a really, really excellent advice. I really appreciate your sharing about, that sometimes transitions can be difficult, that we go through issues in our lives that can be hard, but that if we just kind of push our boundary a little bit. And like you said, step outside of our comfort zone, change can happen and we can make friends and make connections. And I think that's really important to share. And many of my own alumni have shared the same with me. So I just want to recognize that can be a very common experience, but you just kind of have to push a little bit, but still maintain your true nature. So if you're more introverted, that's great. That's fine. But just kind of step outside a little bit to make those types of connections.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I really admire, John and Yvonne and Adrian for, going to such a big school. It's definitely hard, but you guys are doing very good. Yeah.
Thank you, Kim. So I'll move over to me. So me, what is the advice that you would like to share?
Honestly, I kind of have a lot to tell, but I'm just going to be on point. I have two advice. First is that I feel like over the summer, if you guys have time, maybe it's a good idea to make your first resume done. Just write out what do you study in your Green River, what skill you have, just some class, some projects. Just like make your first personal resume. So because when you go into university, you become a junior, then you may need to find a job later. So I'm just saying it's better to get a resume before you start school. So when you go into school, I believe in your school there's going to be some resume workshops that's going to help you to make your resume look more professional. So just from my experience, just would prepare one. The second advice is that even though university is a really crowded place, hectic place, and sometimes you feel like you lost your true self. You're gonna see a lot of people more talented than you. You're gonna say, "Wow, that person is so smart." You cannot be like that person, and then you suddenly feel a little bit intimidating. You're gonna feel like, "Oh my God, I think I cannot be like that. I cannot get to my dream. I cannot." Just about me recently, I have a lot of ambition, but it's just I cannot get more advanced because around me is everyone is just so smart and so especially I think I can relate to you guys. As a woman in tech, my major is computer science. I especially feel so much uncomfortable talking to the local people or the white guy, like white males. I don't know why, it's just a feeling. I don't feel comfortable. I feel like, I don't know why, just like a natural thing or just like is it like any social impact that impact me feeling that way? I still don't know what advice to give to you guys if you guys do have that kind of feeling when you guys go to university. But one advice for you right now, just embrace that feeling, respect that feeling, and just try to be you. Try to focus on yourself. Try to improve that. Instead of looking at other people, see how good they are. Maybe try to look at yourself only and try to improve it day by day. And that is why it's really important for you to find a friend to share that feeling with. So that's why orientation, use that time well to get to know some friends. So you can share with them when you have this feeling. And you guys may become better. Maybe go to club to talk to more people. Again, try to step out of your comfort zone a little bit more. Just like baby stuff. Don't try so hard. You're gonna feel scared and get back again. Just a little bit more, and then I think at the end you will get there. Get there means that you're gonna be successful, and you feel proud of what you have, and you feel like you belong there. You feel you're present there, and you're not afraid of anyone talking about you, or you're not afraid that anyone gonna laugh at you when you talk something in the class.
Yeah.
I'm so scared talking about this.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, but you're being vulnerable. Yeah, and it can be intimidating to be kind of around all these new types of people, new culture. There can be gender dynamics in your department.
Yeah.
Totally understand that. But I do feel like, finding a friend, finding someone that you can share that experience with is really important. So I think that's a really great piece of advice, Me. I thank you for sharing it. Do any of the other alumni have any piece of advice that they would like to share? You can raise your hand. Oh, John, we've got you. Okay, so let me unmute John. And John, go ahead.
So I would give some more realistic advice. So especially for those who are transferring to the university in the Midwest or on the East Coast of the United States, you should really take into account the weather side of that location. Because on the West Coast, the weather has been very very nice. It's not too cold nor too hot. And when I got to Minnesota, I was kind of shocked because of how cold it is here. It was the first time that I can see a negative degree, but in Fahrenheit.
Yes, it's very cold.
And I also have some friends who go to the University of Buffalo or Stony Brook over in New York. They also experience the same thing. The cold really affect their life because cold weather tends to make you feel more gloomy, make you feel more sad. So I would recommend really take into account that the weather can contribute greatly when you are moving to a more extreme weather location. And I would say praise yourself when you're transferring. If you are thinking the classes in Green River during your last year is hard already, it will get much tougher in university for sure. And I have this advice because personally I was during my second year in Green River, I already felt the classes I was taking was the hardest it can be. But when I came to the U here, actually transitioning from the quarter systems to the semester system, you actually learn much more in one semester than in GRC. Every project feels like a final exam in GRC, literally. I had to spend weeks of studying prior to each midterm in order to get a good grade. And for I don't know about other major, but for CS major, especially at the University of Minnesota here, everyone is very cooperative because each project that we got in our CS class is so big that it is impossible for you to solve by yourself. So typically in a project, you get a bit of one person, a bit of the other. So yeah, we usually have a study group where there are 5-6 of us, and we share each of our code. As long as you don't copy the exact same syntax that, you can share. You can feel free to share the idea. It will help you finish the project faster. Because even though I get on average 2 weeks to finish one project, but working by yourself, it will take all of your time. And if you just work by yourself for that project, you cannot do anything for other classes. And since for semester system school, at minimum you have to take 4 classes. So 4 classes is the comfortable number of classes for semester system here, and it really takes a lot of time. And I would say praise yourself, because if you don't prepare yourself prior to coming to university, you will get mental breakdown very easily. I personally, I have experienced that. Yes.
It can be very overwhelming, and I appreciate that you share that. Even when some of these schools are quite competitive, cooperation, collaboration can go a really long way. Because and I would say this to all of you, including all the alumni, if you ever go to graduate school, it's very similar, where it's just you have to work together or you'll just never be able to finish. So, and yeah, just if you're in a snowy place, like get one of those sad lamps, like a sun lamp or something, or try to take a vacation in a warm place, because that transition can be really hard, as John said. So thank you, John. Thanks for sharing. I know there was a couple other people that were raising their hands that wanted to provide some advice. So can you raise your hands again if you want to give a piece of advice? Yvonne, I think we'll go with you first, then Adrian, then maybe Yuki. So I'm going to unmute you, Yvonne, and then I will have you chat. So what piece of advice would you want to share with Green River College students?
Okay. I think it couldn't be emphasized more on how important is it to talk to people. I feel like it's not you want to instantly make friends. It's about creating that impression. So people know you're there. You're not invisible in your class. And I feel like for transfer students, we have this transfer process, and you have completed a lot of things independently. You have done a lot of application and whatsoever. You think that, maybe you can solve the problems yourself, and you don't want to bother other people for it. But sometimes it might be easier to ask for help. And professors, advisors, or the people around you might be nicer than you think they are. So just like step out and ask. Sometimes the problem that might take you 2 hours, 3 hours to solve takes them like 5 minutes to solve. And their advice is going to be so valuable for you, and it might make your life easier.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the most important lesson I've learned.
Yeah, I think that's a really important lesson. And just like, you never know who's going to be around you. And assume that they want to make a connection or they want to help you out. And really, I mean, some of you have said this, but the idea that, there might be other people, you think everyone there has got it all figured out and they're super cool and they're super smart, but they might be feeling the same way that you do. So by you expressing yourself or saying, I have got a question, or like hitting your buddy next to you and saying, hey, do you understand this? Like they might be in the same boat and you can work together. So I think that's an excellent piece of advice, Yvonne. Thank you for sharing.
And
go ahead.
Okay. Oh, and I think that while you have time in the summer, make plans. Especially like when you first start your quarter, go talk to your advisor. Like same in GRC, go talk to your advisor. They will help you out with your class planning, and that's very important because if you want to graduate on time, you don't want to enroll in the wrong classes.
Yes.
And like me said, make your resume beforehand, and actually like think about if you want to stay in academia or you want to go into industry. Because if you want to go to graduate school, the things that you'll be doing might be a little bit different than what you would do if you want to work after school. So you have to think about that. And university is not just about attending class and go home and that's it. There's like a lot of other things out there that you have to do.
Yes. So you are like, in Green River, you're planning for that transfer, right? We're all planning to get to that school that we want to get to. And then you get there and the planning doesn't stop. Like, you kind of feel like you can pat yourself on the back and you did a great job. You got into the school you wanted to, but you still have to plan in advance. Like Yvonne said, you got to meet with your advisor. You got to think about your summers. You got to think about what angle am I taking here? Am I taking a grad school angle? Am I taking an industry angle? So it doesn't stop. The planning doesn't stop once you get to the university. So thank you, Yvonne. That's great. I'm going to move on. I think was Adrian. Let's start with you. So Adrian, what piece of advice do you have to share?
I think I just wanted to add on to what Mi said about being competitive and then like comparing yourself to others like geniuses or something like that. Yeah. Like, I feel like you shouldn't really compare. I mean, I did the same. Of course I did. The first quarter I came in, I see some people who instantly knows the answers to lecturers. The lecture just goes super speed. Like there's no stopping. So like, all I can think of during that time is like, I don't even know what's happening. But then one advice I can give is to not like try to understand something that you missed, but to actually just follow along the lecture. So in my whole quarter, I'm always trying to understand the whole lecture, but the moment I spend like 10 seconds onto one small part, the lecturer is already on a whole different level. Like it's on a different phase. So,
yes. So kind of getting that bigger picture rather than, and then maybe going back to that part that you didn't quite understand.
Yeah, that's one advice. But about the comparing with people, it's like, even though they may seem great in one thing, you yourself are also great in other things. Like there are some things that they can't do that you can do, which you can help them. So that's what's important, to like collaborate with other people, because the things that they don't know, you can actually help them. And the things that you don't know, you can help them.
That's great advice. Thank you, Adrian. Yeah, we all have our strengths. And they might be hidden from other people's view, but they're still there. So that's great advice. And then I think, Yuki, you had something to share. So unmute you. So what piece of advice would you like to share?
So I want to add I was taking like biochemistry last semester, and then like there is like genius. I saw some like 20 students from like biology Olympic students or something like that, and then they just completely mess up the curving, and then like average is like, oh my god, it's like 87 or something. It was really terrible. So I would say like one advice is like, if you're going top school, like grade school, it's okay to mess up first semester or first quarter. It's just take it easy. I would say you kind of have to make friends first semester. Don't study too much, but you have to study, but don't study too much. Just take it easy. It's okay to mess up. It's quite normal. That's what I feel. So
thank you, Yuki. I appreciate it. And then I think, Kim, did you have something else to share as well?
I just want to like elaborate on everyone's opinion. Like John said, the collaboration definitely important. I have one class where we have a shared Google Doc where everybody take notes together. So
nice.
Something like that in university, that you just work on group project a lot compared to Green River. In Green River, I don't have many group projects, but in Seattle U, I would have tons of group project, and time management is also important. And then the resume, like me said, is also very important. I actually wish Green River has like a resume workshop, so student can be prepared before they transferring, because during our time, even professor doesn't mention much about resume, so I was unprepared. So maybe one recommendation for the international department at Green River is to have like a workshop to kind of like teach students how to prepare for a resume.
Their resume, yeah. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, we tend to, when we have lunch fights, this is kind of like a lunch fight, except it's at 4:00 in the afternoon. But when we do have lunch fights in person, we have done resume workshops. But I think we should continue to do those, and probably do more of them, kind of on like every quarter, or maybe 2 a quarter. Because it's almost like writing a personal statement. Like it can take a while to actually perfect it. So. Well, we're actually out of time. We've had a long, very fruitful, very interesting hour-long conversation. I was going to open it up to students' questions. I guess we've got 2 more minutes left. Do any of the participants who aren't the alumni want to ask a question on the chat function? Because otherwise we'll say sayonara to everybody. I don't know how well I pronounced that, Yuki. Sorry. Well, thank you all so much for participating. This was awesome. Thank you so much for being vulnerable, for sharing your true feelings about what it's like to transfer and to be at a new university. I really appreciate it. As I said, this is recorded, so I will be uploading this into the advising Canvas shell. And yeah, this was really great. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you so much for sharing your experiences. It looks like Lansing, did you want to ask something, Lansing?
Yeah, real quick. Are you going to do this again?
Yeah, and this will be recorded, so we can always let students know that they can access it on their Canvas.
Okay, great.
So even if they weren't able to attend. But yeah, I would like to do it again, Lansing, for sure.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.